Hi guys, it's Jess from Just Little Luxuries. Today I'm going to show you guys how to use this Bluey Colour Stamp. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. That said, we're using 6 colours. First of all, we're going to need our colour stamp. We're going to need our cutter. And for those playing at home, you guys are going to need a cookie. I couldn't be bothered baking one cookie for one demo. So I've just 3D printed this mock cookie base. So that's what I'm going to use, but I suggest you guys use an actual cookie because I don't think your clients will be very happy biting into one of these. I'm using Coles Bacon Create White Icing. This is a generic, I imagine it's a generic supermarket fondant ready to roll. I recommend Queen's as well. The fancier icing that you get from your cake stores and everything, they have a tendency to stick a lot more. I think these ones have a bit more like oil incorporated in them, so they release a little bit easier. So if you're international, just head to your supermarket, try out a cheap generic icing. What's the worst can happen? If you're in New Zealand, and I know we have at least one Kiwi viewer, so you want to head to your Woolworths, formerly known as Countdown, and grab a box of royalty white icing. I reckon I would put money on it being very similar to this or the Queen's icing. If you give it a shot, let me know what your recommendations are in the comments. This one has 6 colours. I've gone and picked out a few different colours from our Sugar Art library. So, we've got some black. This is the Master Elite Black. And then we've got, I haven't even coloured this. This is just some fondant that has not been coloured. You could chuck some white Master Elite Sugar Art in here, and it will actually make it a bit more, like, it's surprising how much vibrant a little bit of the white colouring actually makes this. You will realise how opaque it actually is. Okie dokes. And then I've gone with a navy. This is the Elite Colour Navy Blue. If you guys are interested in the Sugar Art colours, just remember the Master Elite colours and the Elite colours are different. So you can jump on the sugarart.com and they've got a lot of information that explains the difference between these. Then I'm using Wedgwood. You can see this is a bigger lot of icing because I'm going to use this as our base color. Then I'm using the pastel blue Elite color. And finally, I hope I have all the colors covered. We've got caramel. So it actually looks quite dark in here, but if you just use a smidgy, you get a quite nice tan sort of bluey face color, I guess. Anyway, so that's the colors we're using. Obviously, we're going to need our trusty rolling pin. We're going to need our brush. This is number 14 Sweet Sticks. I forget what style of brush this is, but I'll find out and I'll put it in the description for you. This one's really good for buffing out the lines. So I don't know if you can see, but when we make these, there's some really fine laser lines, like it's not dead smooth. Possibly the most important thing is this guy here. This is my trusty cornflour bag. It's some sort of tea bag that I have filled up with cornflour. Tied it up off the top, and then you just dust it. It just gives you a more even spread, I imagine. I'm sure you've all seen like those little dusting bags. Why cornflour? I'm glad you asked. Cornflour, I rate above icing sugar because it is quite non-stick. It really does do a better job of preventing stickiness, and it doesn't add any extra moisture. When you use icing sugar, your fondant is more likely to become sticky and tacky the more you work with it. And when you're using the colour stamps, that's not a good thing because you do not want your icing to stick into the mould. The other thing is, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not really into sweet things. So I don't want to add too much extra unwanted sweetness into what I'm making. So the cornflour is like neutral. So you don't need to worry about any sort of extra sweetness that you weren't expecting. And the other thing is it's quite a fine texture. So it really does blend in well with the icing. There's not, some people say there is a bit of a residue. I find you can dust most of it off and rub it into the icing. Icing sugar, I find, gives you more of a grainy texture. So that would be my biggest recommendation when using our colour stamp, is to use cornflour as opposed to icing sugar. The second biggest recommendation would be using a generic cheap brand of icing if you have tried fancier icings and you have not had any luck with this. Righto, so this is a little pin type needle thingamabob. It's good for picking out the icing, pulling out little pieces. It's sort of like, it's just, I'm pretty sure it's just an acupuncture needle. I have this little piece of acrylic. I use this as my scraper. I'm going to work my way from the middle outwards. You can, with the pupil, I'm going to put little black pieces of icing for the pupil. What you could do if you don't want to sort of smudge the black into the white, or the white into the black or whatever, you can just use white for the eyes, and at the end of it, just paint the pupils black. It's probably going to be even more easier doing it that way than this way, but this is just a little, I'm going to show you a little trick. Just put my black icing here. I just sit it on top, and then I just bring my scraper. You sort of want it, you don't want it sitting up like that. You want it on a less than a 45-degree angle, I would say, to what you're working with. So you sort of just push it down over the icing and then just pull it across. You want to keep downward force on it. You see that there are some bits that are coming out, but they're not the bits that we want to stay in there. And this is where the needle comes in handy. You just pull these out like it's effortless. And then once it starts getting a bit more complicated, the needle actually works really well, so you're not sort of pulling out bits that you shouldn't be pulling out, theoretically. Now my trick. It's quite a simple trick. What I do is I take my needle and I pull out the eye, put it to the side, I'll pull out the other one. Should come out relatively easy. Put that to the side. Then I take my white icing. You'll understand why I'm doing this in a second. Put my white over the eyes. That's probably way too much. But we just scrape it over. Take our needle again. Pull out all the bits that we do not want. Okay, so I'm going to take this eye, just pick it up with the needle and plonk it back in there. So just be careful, because you have sort of taken it out, it's going to be very loose in there. And then we just plop this one back in here. And I find doing it this way sort of helps prevent sort of smudging around in the white. I'll see if I can flip it over without these falling out. So you can see there's no sort of black or anything. And that's my little pet hate, is getting all the colours smudged in together. I'm going to put our navy blue in here. So where you can, you want to sort of, if you can, like if it's around a curve or something, you sort of just want to sort of curve it around as best you can. Way too much here for this little section. The other good thing about this scraper is you can sort of use the corners and the edges to give you different angles to sort of help you push in where you need. Look, you can be as careful as you want, you can be as rough as you want. I've seen people get pretty rough with these and still manage to turn out some pretty decent looking cookies, but I just do not like smudging my colours. I'm a drawing the lines kind of girl. So that little bit is done, and then we'll move on to this bit here. So now there's a tiny little bit above his eye. I'm just gonna sort of put one of these little dags in there. Get in there. Okey-dokes. So as you can see, I'm sort of cutting it off as well. So where these lines are, it just cuts it off. And then that's where you get your needle and you just pull that out as easy as. And then, so when I do these tutorials, it does seem like it takes a while, but I'm going pretty slow just so I can let you know what I'm doing as I'm going. I'd say at least 3 times faster, maybe. Okie dokie. a little bit of an issue here, but I can just pull it back before it gets too integrated into the white. It's not too much of a drama getting the colors mixed up on the back side of it. It's just when you get them mixed up on the flip side. And you want to keep it as level as you can with the mold color stamp, because when you stamp it onto your base color, it will squish everything out, and we do not want that. Righto. So if we look over here, you'll notice on the back here, I do have a little bit of blue up in my white. But when you flip it over here, the main thing is that it's not showing through here. And I'm pretty happy with that. Look, it's not the end of the world. People think these look great, even if they are smudged up a little bit. So, I mean, I wouldn't stress too much about it. I'm just a little bit OCD, I guess. Okie dokes. So, again, working our way from inwards to outwards. We're going to do the eyebrows with our pastel. Just grab a little piece, pop it in here. And plonk it down. So I think the main issue people have is the icing sometimes will pull out when you're doing this. So you'll scrape it back and it will sort of pull itself out. I'm going to get scrap icing. If you've got sort of big chunks, you can sort of just pull them out. Like, see if we can get it closer. See this little bit here? So, bam, it sticks to that. Alright, so I don't know if you can see here. See, it's sort of trying to pull itself out. It hasn't, which is good. So you can just push it gently back in. And then, so I think it's important to have a firm downward pressure as you're pulling, like scraping the icing away. Sort of hard to explain because I'm not a physicist. But yeah, you sort of push down and pull. And again, it sort of tried to pull itself out. But you can just push it back in a little bit. Just keep an eye on things, see how they're going. You know, if you do find that you've smudged something, you can just go back through, pull out the pieces and try again. You need to be patient with this. You need to practice. You're not necessarily going to get it the first time. And you may struggle. So now I'm going to fill in the ears. So we're using our caramel and our navy. So I'm just going to quickly do that. Hopefully I'm speeding the video up right now. Okay, just quickly. with the eyes, so how I pulled out the pupils before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out these ears because these are quite thin in here. And then that could lead to some issues. So we'll just gently pull these ears out. It gives you like you sort of still have to squish them back in sometimes, but it does give you sort of the basic shape so you can play around. Alrighty, so pop these little fellas back in. Now you should just be able to squish them back into the proper shape with your fingers. Grab our white. And again, this is going to be the same as the pupils and the ears. We're just going to jam, you know what, I'm just going to put a bit more of this in because I would have pulled out a whole bunch of that. And that's the other thing. If you find when you go to stamp it and it's not coming off, one, it's probably because you've been talking too long and this is dried out, Jess. Or two, as you're going along, you drag your icing through, you pull out the bits you've sort of over scraped, and that'll pull out your cornflour. So if you find that it's pulling out all your cornflour, you are going to want to just give it a quick dust, but you do not want to dust the stuff you've already put in, because if that isn't sticky enough, it's not going to transfer over to your base icing. So we've knocked our teeth out. We're going to put a muzzle on. There is a little bit here that can get a little bit confusing. Let's just pull this up a bit more. Okay, so the bit I'm talking about is through here. So this line, I've actually updated this design since, but I'm doing this one because most people will have this one. So this line should come up to here or to here or wherever you want it to come up to. So what I do, take my little needle and I just sort of drag it across and basically just cut out where this line should be. Just like that. So it's quite simple. I just drag out all this. The other thing I didn't mention when we finished up the top is you want to make sure that the acrylic around the design is free of any sort of residue from your icing. So say for example you got this darker color, you got this lighter color, and it smudges on the outside here. When you stamp onto your base icing, you're going to see it, and it's not going to look great. But, I mean, that's up to you how much effort you really want to put in. But personally, I make sure that these are spotless around here, and it's smooth, so you can just wipe it off. All right, let's take out our yellow teeth. Let's try and reinstate these ones. Oof. I did say this was going to be easy, didn't I, guys? Sorry. But again, these fiddly little bits, what you could do, particularly with the teeth and the pupils, you just paint them. Just stamp, just color the whole muzzle in the caramel. Including the teeth. Once you've stamped it, just get some white paint because the caramel's not going to be too dark to paint over either. So, I mean, you can just paint on the extra detail, and that's going to save you heaps of time. But I did want to show you this way, even though it's, I suppose it's not the easiest way, but it's definitely not the most difficult way. So we got that going for us. All right, now the nose, I'm just going to do this black. I think it's like a darker blue, but I don't really want to, you don't want to be doing too many colors. And see, it's trying to pull itself out again. I don't know if you can see very well. So it's sort of trying to pull itself out. Simple fix. Just push back in. Magic. I'm going to go with the pastel blue because we can just do a huge chunk at once. I might just do a little hand up here first. Now it's going to get easier because we're sort of on the outskirts. This is why I work from the inside out, because it's just, it makes sense to me. It might not be a blanket rule, I guess. There might be some instances where you sort of would want to work on the outside first. I'm not sure what that situation would be. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. You'll see her little feet have rolled out. The tops of her legs are rolled out, but I don't care about that. The tops of her legs, because we're getting rid of those. Likewise, we're getting rid of this, and these bits here. It's just fun to do a very satisfying big scrape. And obviously, the quicker you go, the less chance you have of all this drying out. Because I'm not 100% convinced when I try and stamp this, it's going to work. So as you saw before, little feet are trying to, little socks coming off. So you just push them back up. Push them back up. There we go. Very nice. You might find her right foot. I'm going to put a bit more in there because it sort of hasn't really done what I want it to do. Another way you can avoid pulling your icing out is sort of, so the way I scraped it before, I scraped it down. And because you've got these parallel lines, I guess, I don't know if that, yeah, parallel with the side of this, and then horizontal with that, I guess. It's sort of, the force of it is going to sort of pull it out with it as it's coming down. Look, I'm going to show you again. All right, we'll take a little socks off. Okay. It's probably not going to do it again, but I'm going to try and show you again. So, now, I'm pulling this down. See? It pulls our little socks down with it. That's just the force of me pulling this way, right? So, take our socks off again. Chuck the icing. Actually, I'm going to give it another little quick dust. Chuck the icing here. Now, what you want to do, you sort of don't want to scrape with lines that are parallel, I guess, with this. And so what I would do is I would come at an angle like that. You still get some pulling away, but it's just the corner. And you just tap it back in. And again, bam, done. Nothing happening there. Socks have stayed up. So now we just got these navy blue sections, and that's it for the colouring in. Okay, that's her done. At least the colour filling in part. Very nice, sorry. Very nice. Now let's just flip this over, have a look at what we're working with. So it looks pretty tidy to me. I'm excited to get this stamped. So with the base colour, I think I roll it about 3 mil, maybe, potentially. Okay, I'll push you over there for a sec. So what I want to do with the base icing is I just want to get this, I want to get it pretty tacky. I want to get it nice and sticky. So hopefully that stick will grab a hold of the other icing and we're not going to have too many dramas releasing this from its mold, colour stamp, whatever you want to call it. So that's feeling pretty tacky to me. I have seen people use glue, edible glue, so they will possibly like paint it onto the base coat. I'm not 100% sure if that helps. I've never tried it. Look, it can't hurt. If you are having trouble, it cannot hurt to give it a go. The important thing with this base icing is not to get too much cornflour on the top here, because you want that sticky, and you may be tempted when it starts to get stuck to your rolling pin to give it a quick dusting. Don't. All right, bam. Place the not cornstarched side on top. Sandwich it through there. Rightio. Now, taking these ones off, putting these fat boys on. All right, now what I do is I go down that way, bring it back to the middle, because you don't want to roll back over, because it could push your fondant back through everything, and then push it that way. Now this, I'm going to be so surprised if this actually comes up, but let's see. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to pull it off. Maybe. The feet are coming off. Ears, not so much. Oh, there we go. Not bad, not bad. So, can anyone spot the problem? We've lost a pupil. We have lost a pupil. Do not fret, my friends. Get a little brush. Put a little bit of water on it. Take the water brush. Paint the area where your pupil needs to go. Take your trusty needle. Where is it? There. See, the eye is sticking in there. Oh, it was sticking in there. So it's falling down here. I just pick it up with a needle, work out where you're going to place it, get your orientation right. I'm going to give this a quick dusting with my trusty little brush. As you can see, we do have some smudging in the ear, but that's okay. I'm not too concerned. It's not too bad. Just up the top there. Where's... So the back of this needle, what you can do is you can sort of also use that to manipulate your icing. Obviously, if I hadn't been talking so long, I would have got it done quicker and everything would have released quite nicely. Like I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. Now, let's just see. I don't know if you can see the lines that it's left. It's actually not too bad. But what you can do if you see these lines and you don't like it, you just take this and you just quite firmly but gently, if that's a thing, brush over, I'd say 90 degrees to the way the lines are running, and it just sort of smooths them over. It sort of just buffs them out a little bit, which sort of just takes that machine look away, I guess. Okay, now grab our cutter. So there we go. Got a little cookie. I think I made the texture a bit rough around the edges, but otherwise I think it looks alright. I might work on finding a better cookie color. But at least it gives you a better idea of how it's going to look sitting on a cookie. And this is the perfect no spread dough. So yes, that, my friends, is how to use the Bluey Colour Stamp.